Today is Tuesday, May 14th. This is Chris Payton. I'm on Skidaway Island with Mercer Klein, and we're checking to see that the recorder's working before we start talking. Okay, are we recording? We seem to be. Okay. I had asked you to tell me how you're related to Johnny Mercer.
I am his niece. My father was his half-brother. Pop Mercer had 3 boys by his first wife, and she died, and then he married again and had Johnny and Juliana. And so I am one of the daughters of his second boy by that first wife.
Named?
Walter Mercer.
Okay. One of the confusions with this family is that you get Walter and George and Hugh all over. So.
Yeah, he was George Walter Mercer.
George Walter?
Yeah.
Oh, even better. Okay.
Yeah. I guess my first memory of Uncle Johnny goes back to 1945 when I was 6 years old. And my father had chronic asthma and decided to go to Albuquerque, New Mexico to try the air out there. And we just kept on going after that and went out to visit Johnny in California. I don't really have any strong memories of Johnny per se at that time. I just remember playing at Malibu Beach, and I remember when the war ended and everybody went crazy in the streets, and I remember things like that, but I really have no specific memories of Uncle Johnny. And the next visit that I had with him was here in Savannah, and I don't remember whether Aunt Ginger was with him or not, but Johnny came back to Savannah often. He really loved Savannah. And he rented a private room at Johnny Harris's for a family dinner. So we all got together, and I remember sitting around this big table, and Johnny spent the whole evening telling Gullah stories. He was just wonderful. He used to spend a lot of time, I think, with I think he had some black friends when he was growing up, and he could imitate them perfectly. And shortly after that evening, I wrote an English paper on that evening and got an A on it. so I was probably about 10 years old then. I don't remember exactly. One time I remember him visiting us in our house, and he fixed us his favorite chicken dish, which I still have the recipe for.
What was it?
I just call it Uncle Johnny's chicken.
We'd heard he was a good cook.
I think it might have been an Italian type dish, but it was really delicious, and I've always remembered that. When he purchased the house on what became Moon River, he and Ginger gave at least one party there that I remember going to. And I spent most of that time there talking to Ginger about books and reading. And I was probably 14 at the time.
And so that would have been about...
I'm 58 now, so whenever.
Okay.
When I was 16 and my sister was 14, Uncle Johnny invited the two of us to come up to New York to have a big theater time in the theater. And he flew us up, and it was the first time we'd been on an airplane, and it was very exciting. So we got up there, and he put us up in a very nice women's hotel, and I can't think of the name of it. Barbizon for women. Is it?
I don't know, but we'll check on it.
I think that was it, the Barbizon for women. And Mandy, his daughter, was with us, so the 3 of us girls, all teenagers, spent our time together, and he got us tickets for everything. I think Little Abner was on, and Andy Mame, and I don't remember what else. I mean, we saw a whole bunch of plays. And then in the evenings, he would take us to the jazz houses, and we saw June Christie and all kinds of, names that were singing and playing at the time. He was very involved in the music world. I remember he would point out people, see, there's so-and-so, and I wouldn't have any idea, who this was. It was some famous trumpeter or something, and I wouldn't. During that time, they had been renting a house out on Long Island at the beach, and we went out there, I think, on the weekends. But there was not too much to do, and there was too much drinking going on, and he and Ginger just fought the whole time. So
Really?
it wasn't much fun. I don't have any memories of anything there except them fighting and us girls hiding in our bedroom talking.
Really?
That was about it.
So it was you and Mandy, and you brought a friend, so there were...
No, my sister.
Your sister.
Louise.
Okay, so there were three of you.
Yeah, right. During my freshman or sophomore year at Swarthmore College, I don't remember which year it was, Uncle Johnny stopped by one day. He was in Philadelphia, and he stopped by to take me to lunch at an elegant restaurant in downtown Philly, and I don't remember a thing about our conversation, but I remember being sort of intimidated at being such a lovely restaurant, because I very seldom went to really lovely restaurants. And when we had finished eating, I still had some food left, and he said, "Would you like to take that with you?" And I said, "Yes." And so he called the waitress over, and he said, "Would you please bring us a Bowser bag?" And I've always chuckled over that. But who else would call it a Bowser bag but Uncle Johnny? And when I was about 30, I got divorced from my first husband and moved back to Savannah for a short while. And during that time, Johnny visited and stayed at his place on Moon River. And one night I drove him to a party in town, and he got quite drunk. And when I got him back to his place, he made a pass at me, which shocked and saddened me.
Mm-hmm.
He was a very different man when he was drinking. And when I was about 32, Jeff, who is now my husband, and I visited Johnny and Ginger in their New York apartment on our way to the opera with Hugh Mercer. And it was just a brief visit, but it was nice that Jeff could meet them. And that was really the last time I saw Uncle Johnny, although Ginger visited Savannah several times after that, and I saw her each time. And I've always felt very sympathetic to Johnny because he always seemed to me to be a very simple man with a great gift, who had been lifted out of his simple place in the South and stuck in the fast lane with a wife who loved the fast lane. And I think he never belonged there, and I think he was never very happy there. That's just my feeling about him, and I always just felt sad for him. I think that's about it.
Okay. Do you have any sense of how Mrs. Mercer was received or accepted here in Savannah? We've picked up from people we've talked to that she wasn't necessarily real comfortable here.
No, she wasn't real comfortable here, but I think her discomfort was of her own making. I think she didn't like Savannah. I think probably Savannah threatened her because this is where his heart was and where all of his really fond memories were and some of his good friends. And it's just a totally different lifestyle than what she was brought up to. She was from a Jewish family in New York, I think, and just, didn't know anything about this kind of living. And it just felt like a stranger here. So.
Well, we thought that, especially that far back, that the difference of somebody raised in New York versus somebody raised in Savannah, that culturally, that there would be big things to overcome there. Yeah. And, even in her later years, she apparently visited Savannah off and on.
She did.
She didn't spend a lot of time.
No, but she visited several times. Somebody picked that up.
Okay. Do you know if she visited here when she came, or?
She visited his sister, Juliana. She visited Hugh's wife, Mary Louise, who is still alive at 95 or 6 or whatever she is. And she would always get the whole family together. I remember she had a luncheon at the Pirates House one time.
Oh, she did?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
And then she came out here and had a luncheon just with Mary Louise and Hugh and my family at a little restaurant out here on the island one time. And those are the two that I really remember. Oh, and then she came down for a show that was done here for Johnny's music. I don't remember who did it or what the name of it was. It was quite well done, though. And she came for that. Oh, and this is a really funny story. She was sitting, of course, in the very center of the front row, and we were sitting back to the left a little bit.
This is for the show.
For the show,
Mercer
right.
show.
And during intermission, we got up and went down to say hello to her. And she's standing there, and all of a sudden, her skirt drops down to her feet.
Oh.
She had this very sophisticated black outfit, but it was obviously a skirt and bra it was. She just casually reached down, pulled it back up, and said, "I knew I should have gotten that zipper fixed." So she was just in her own home and nobody was around, you know. And I thought, boy, who else could have done that with such a plum, you know? But I mean, it was all I could do to get back to my seat because I just got hysterical later over it. It was so funny. But she really handled it beautifully, and there she was in the center of everything. You know?
What can you do? I think I just would have turned red and cried or something if it had happened to me. Do you have any sense of how his brothers or sister or the rest of the family felt about his show business career? It's not the kind of thing that a nice boy from Savannah at that time period in particular would have done.
Yes, it was a very strange thing for them at first, I'm sure. But they were really a very close-knit family. And I think the three older boys particularly, since they were all raised sort of without a mother,
Mm-hmm.
and they were all very close. And those four guys used to get together as much as they could, quite
Did they?
often, yeah. And when they started passing on, the family just sort of went in two different directions. There was the social part of the family, and then there was the sort of antisocial part of the family. And my mother and father were antisocial, and Elizabeth and George, who was George, Jr., the son of,
Mm-hmm.
they were social.
Elizabeth is a cousin?
Yes.
Okay.
That she was. She was the sister of George Mercer Jr.,
Okay.
the son of Johnny's half brother.
Okay.
My voice, I'm sorry, it's not good today.
It's okay. Do you want to stop for a minute?
It won't do any good. I just might as well
Okay, we'll just go ahead and hack away.
force my way through it. Yes.
It won't come out in the transcript. We
Yeah,
just
yeah.
keep going with the words that we get in.
Yes.
Kate called, what you called?
Okay. You do know that Johnny would not fly in an airplane.
Yes, we do, and I
You
thought
know
that was
that.
kind of funny that he put you guys on it, but that he
Yeah,
wouldn't
right.
do it.
Yeah. No, he wouldn't fly in an airplane.
Trains, from what we understand.
Trains and boats.
Boats, too?
Oh yeah, he collaborated over in Europe. And he
Oh, that's right.
He would take a boat
That's right.
over. He would not.
I think it's in his autobiography that I think he flew back for his father's funeral.
Oh well, okay.
And I could be wrong, and
You may be right.
whoever's reading this transcript,
Yeah.
don't take me too literally, but I think there's a comment in there to the effect that it was such a dreadful plane trip.
Yeah,
And I think it was back maybe in the 40s. I mean, it was a long ways
Oh,
back,
yeah,
so it
yeah.
would have been fairly primitive.
yeah.
That was it.
That was it. Yeah. Well,
he never
did.
wanted to begin with. He did it, and he
Yeah.
wasn't going to do it again.
But my father never liked to fly either, so I think there was more to it than that.
It may have just been the generation that they were
It
of.
may have been.
It was,
But my father flew, I think, maybe twice in his life, and under great duress, just really. So.
we've heard that from somebody else that we spoke with in this series of interviews that one of the people that Mercer hung around with a lot in his youth and in his later years was a cousin named Jimmy Downey.
I know the name, but I
Okay,
do
you
not
don't.
know. I don't know anything about him.
We're trying to see if there are any descendants or,
Mhm.
or anybody from
Mhm.
that. Apparently, Mr. Downey either was older or whatever, but ended up in New York slightly ahead, is the story that we heard of Mr. Mercer, and was in advertising. But they remained close and would vacation together and hang around together. And we'd never heard his name up until about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So we're trying to piece that together.
Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, question that you might know about. According to what we know, the family, when he was young, and you wouldn't have been there at this time, summered outside of Savannah. They had a summer home. Do you have any idea where that was? Vernon View? Some of the photographs are labeled Vernon View.
Yes.
Okay, where is that?
It's the next island south.
Uh-huh.
His father bought that island
Oh,
at the turn of the century and then developed it. It was a real estate venture.
okay.
And that's where I grew up. My father bought a lot out there. And that's
Oh,
where
you
I grew
did?
up. Yeah.
Do you have any idea where there's, if we went looking for it,
Oh,
would there be a chance that
absolutely.
you
And
do?
I know the woman who lives there if you want
You
to
do?
go. Yeah.
So the house is still there?
Yeah, we can go right now if you want to.
Oh, well, when we're down here.
Take us about 10 minutes to get there.
Okay, because we have photographs, but they're only snapshots.
That's one of the few older houses. It was the first house on the island, I think.
Really?
I think it must have been built around 1904. Anyway,
So
it's
it
one
looks
of,
very open and
Yeah.
very unpopulated.
Yeah.
Just the little snippets that we have
oh
from the
yeah,
snapshots.
it was the first house out there.
That would
And
explain it then,
and well, it's the whole island is totally developed now.
I'm sure.
But that's one of the few older houses that's left.
Well, he talks in the autobiography about the rituals that went with this. That a servant would walk the cow out so they could have milk over the summer. That there was a separate cookhouse, or the kitchen was in a separate outbuilding.
Yeah. It's still there.
And then we have wonderful little childhood pictures of him with his fishing bob, and all the things that you do when you're a kid and you're out in the country.
Yeah.
And people have asked us, and we just hadn't had time up until now to start tracking it down and see if it was still there.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's good news. See, I knew that you had all kinds of things that we could use for this. I think that pretty well covers. Oh, you mentioned his last visit to Savannah. Could you tell me about when that was? Approximately. Now, he passed away in '76, and he
Right.
was incapacitated in late '75, and he was
Right.
in Europe a good part of '74.
Right. I believe I was 30 years old.
Okay. And that would be then.
So that would be 28 years ago.
Okay, I'll subtract it when I get back to the
Yeah.
office.
Yeah.
Because somebody gave us some little snapshots, and they're labeled Johnny's last visit.
Mhm.
It's good that we know it was his last visit. It would be even better if we knew the date.
Now, I'm just assuming that's his last visit. It was my last visit with him in Savannah,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't here, most of my life during that time.
Okay.
So
Well, that at least gets us close. We
Yeah.
know that there was a visit
yeah.
around then.
Right.
Because we know he was busy with the show in London with
Mhm.
Andre Previn
Mhm.
for a year or two, sometime after 1970.
Mhm.
And we just don't know after that how much
Mhm.
he came back.
Mhm.
The newspaper would probably tell us. I'm guessing there would be mention pretty much
sure
any
they would.
time. And
Mhm.
so at some point we'll probably send somebody to the microfilm to
Mhm.
check on what was going on. Can I ask you one other question that just kind of occurred to me? We have photographs of him. Well, we have baby photographs of him at Vernon View in the marshes and all that. And then the very last set of photographs that we have taken in Savannah, the last set we've been able to document that were professionally done, are about 1970. And he's in the marshes and all that. Do you have any thought of how he would feel about the development and all? We have poems and writings that indicate that he really was disturbed by the development in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
We have an interview where he talks about the orange groves and
Mhm.
the natural beauty that was there,
Mhm.
and
Oh, I'm sure.
complains about it.
I'm sure it would disturb him tremendously. My youngest son grew up here with just woods around him, and that was just woods until about a year ago. And he went up to his first year in college up in New York City,
Mhm.
and just got home. He said, Mom, he said, I like the school, but he said, I cannot stand the concrete jungle. And he said, I just need to be in a beautiful environment. And I think Johnny felt that same way. I mean, Vernon View,
Beautiful.
when you see the view there, you will just say, oh, I mean, it's just so gorgeous and tranquil. I mean, just a lovely, lovely, lazy bones kind of a life, That is really
We were
really
pretty
nice.
sure it had to be
Yeah,
from the photographs.
Yeah. So I'm sure that he would be horrified to see. I mean, even when I was growing up on that island, the whole center of the island was undeveloped. So we knew where all the, possums and coons hung out, and we knew where all the different birds had their roosts, and we used to go back there and just, look at things and find things, and we had our hideouts in the woods, and we used to swing on the pine trees, get up in a nice sapling pine, and they, and we used to have a lot of fun back there. And when I came back from college and thought about living there, it was all grown up. Not college, but actually after I'd been away for a few years. It was totally developed, and I wanted a piece of the wilderness coast, and it wasn't a piece of the wilderness coast anymore. So that's why we came over here. And now this, of course, is developing.
Right.
But we've had 15 years here, so that's good. I was able to raise my kids on the wilderness coast.
That's good. I think that's pretty much it. And it's quite a bit. So I thank you.
Okay. Do you want to go over there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.